There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sean and Sax show. The message for today is simple. If you can survive dating, you will survive the purge, you will survive the end of the world, you will survive the zombie apocalypse. The end. See you next week. Oh my gosh. Guys, welcome to the show. We have something very specific we want to talk about. We want to add a couple things to it today. We were having a great conversation with friends here before we jumped on about the current state of things. And the hard part about talking about some of this stuff now is like you might be listening to this podcast a year from now and the show's over. We've already had the purge. If you're listening to this and we've already had the purge, then you win. You were one of the strong ones. Congratulations.
Well done.
You made it to the other side. Good job. You were prepared. You've been listening. Your house was in order. You listened to our House in Order podcast. You're welcome. We saved your life. No, we want to talk about a couple different things. One of the things that's come up a lot in the messages from people, and we get this, both of us, both you and I, and not only from people dating, but people that were asking how we went from 1.0 to 2.0. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you kind of a little quick backstory. So Saxony and I dated. We met. Babe, inject if I'm
We talked
off.
for a long,
We talked for
time.
a bit. We messaged back and forth. Totally platonic, totally kosher. Like you were doing you, I was doing me. And then I actually asked. I got out of a relationship. I think you were just being the single cat plant mom. You were just a plant lady who just your love affair was not with a human being. It was with plants in your yard.
Correct.
And so I asked her out four separate times, and she basically gave me the cold shoulder. Said no. Said go fuck yourself.
I did not.
And so in different words,
way.
She was very kind about it, but basically told me to fuck off. Anyways, I'm a persistent son of a gun.
You really are.
And I won. I got to her. I got her to go out with me. Took her on a Harley ride. You know, I mean, we sat on the side of the mountain and drank shitty beer and ate candy and had great conversation. I mean, who wouldn't
talked about our fears.
Who wouldn't fall in love with that? I mean, that was like the ultimate fucking game. Anyways, we dated for about 6 months, and then Saxony dumped me. She broke up with me. True story. And basically told me to piss off, and rightly so. Because she needed to piss off too. I mean, really what it boiled down to is she has commitment issues and had a lot of things that she needed to work on herself.
My tomatoes were missing me.
Yeah.
It was just too much.
Exactly. The plants were dying and, whatever. So we ended up disconnecting dating-wise for about 6 months. I was still there. I think we might have unfollowed each other and then refollowed each other. And I still like...
I did unfollow you.
You did, but...
I didn't want to see you anymore.
Yeah, because you had feelings. Those feelings were real, man.
I did.
And I would check in every now and again and say what's up. And it's interesting because, like, Saxony's, like... I dated for a little bit and dated some people, and when you knew that there was nothing there, there was just a disconnect, and I never really gave a shit. And you go your way, I go my way. But with Sax, I never really disconnected. And... I'd slide up in the DMs every now and again, whatever, this, that, and the other. And I know you checked in on me, and I checked in on you. And anyways, so she got her shit together.
Jeez.
She got her shit together.
People want the truth. They want the truth.
Well, you did have to go get your shit together. There's a lot of truth to that, right? As did I. But this is part of the story. Saxony had to go get her shit together. I had to go get my shit together. When we met, it was interesting because we both had very grandiose ideas of what we wanted, but we hadn't evolved individually into the people that were worthy of that or ready for that.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
I had to do work. She had to do work. It was really cool because when we met, and this is good for a lot of people who are dating to hear, but I also think this is very, very, very applicable to people that are in relationships, and I'm going to explain why here in a second. When we met, it was like we were both wanting this reality, but hadn't evolved ourselves into who we needed to be. I talk a lot about who do you have to become, right? Who do you have to become to have a ripped body? Who do you have to become to be a millionaire? Who do you have to become to have a phenomenal relationship, a deeply rooted, trusting relationship, right? We hadn't become the people yet. In our minds, we wanted it. We just hadn't become that. So we disconnected. She dumped me, and it was great. And I kept doing my thing. She kept doing her thing. And what was interesting is the disconnect there. It was like we had kind of tasted, like we had when we were together, we had some really good steak.
Yeah.
And then you disconnect and you kind of go back to the not
Burger
good,
King.
the Burger King. And no disrespect to anybody on either end, but it was like, fuck, man, that was
kind of
something
disrespectful, what I
different,
just
you
did.
know? And so there was a lot of hesitation on my end. There was a lot of hesitation on her end, for good reason. We both have had many relationships that didn't work out well, that caused a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of frustration. We both have a lot of baggage. We both have a lot of shit that we've lived through in our lives, and a lot of demons that we had to face individually. And during that break, I think what was really cool is we had two choices: to keep playing small and hiding, but having tasted something bigger and better, it was kind of like, fuck, I want that, right? But I know what I have to do to get that. And we had to do some really difficult work.
Yeah.
Some really powerful work individually.
For sure.
Ourselves. And so when I stayed in the DMs and hit her up a little bit here and a little bit there, and then asked her back out. And
I'd like to talk a little bit more though about 1.0 and that.
well, we're going to. I'm just
Okay,
giving the
okay.
backstory of
gotcha.
of what 1.0 and 2.0 is.
Gotcha.
I'm just long-winded.
Get it, honey.
I gotta give all the
love
details,
to hear you talk.
right?
I know.
Anyway, so
Carry on.
that 1.0 was when we dated for 6 months. She broke up with me, and then I asked her out a couple of times, and she said no, was very hesitant and whatever. And I finally got her to meet me, and we met back up. There was still a lot of reservation there, but 2.0 is when we started to date, like legit date. And when we first got together, or back together, I should say, for 2.0, we were still playing small, but we had there was a lot of guard up, would you say? I mean, there was a lot of hesitation in trusting the other person.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, but I think we were a little bit. We were more willing, even though there was so much like distrust. There was a lot of willingness to do something that there wasn't before.
Yeah, we had both done a lot of work, and we both knew individually that we were in a different place. There was the willingness, but there was also like the reservation. Like, you had hard lines with me, and I needed those hard lines. You were like, yo, this is the deal, man. Like, if we're gonna fucking date, we're gonna date, right? And I was still in that like, I want to feel this out and see. I'm not really sure. And you had the hard line. You had the non-negotiables. Like, I don't have time. I'm not fucking around. I needed that. You needed to be that, right? And so, moral of the story is 2.0 was us dating again, and then here we are. Yeah. So we ended up both like really getting clear that this is what we wanted. We both created clear boundaries out of the gates. We were both like, yo, we're all in. This is what this means. This is what this looks like. Here's my non-negotiables. Here's your non-negotiables. We both sat on the same table with that and agreed to these things. And it was where we both planted our flag and said, okay, we're going to date. We're going to pursue a relationship, right? Versus swiping right, swiping left, bumbling, blah, 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 staying on the fence, you know what I mean? Having other options, whatever. So I share that just to preface, so when you hear us talking about 1.0 and 2.0, that's what it is. But a lot of people have been asking us about like what happened in between and how did you go from 1.0 to 2.0? Yeah. And I want to say this for all my married friends right now, okay? This is something that came to me this morning as we were talking about the podcast. And I believe this not just from a relationship standpoint, but from a human nature standpoint. I believe anybody can change. I truly believe that. Whether you're an addict, whether you're a compulsive liar, whether you've been stuck in a shit reality for 50 fucking years, in one day, in one moment, in one instant, I truly believe a human being can change. I believe that no matter how fat you are, broke you are, poor you are, abused you've been, mind-fucked you've been, you have the ability, the sovereign fucking ability to change, to create something different. And I say this with my married friends because I was married for 10 years. And I know what it's like to be in a relationship where you're looking at your lover, you're looking at your spouse, and you're like, this isn't going to change. And I know what it's like to be stuck in patterns that aren't what you want, that aren't healthy, that aren't good, that aren't inspiring, that aren't motivating, you know, and any of you that have been married for a long time, you understand this, right? There comes a place of complacency. There's a place of expectation. There's a place of, you know, this is how it is. This is how it's always going to be conversation. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that that's what causes so much strife in a relationship, is the expectation of this is what it is. This is how it's always been, right? If you, case in point, you think about being married for an extended period of time, 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 years, and then all of a sudden you want to introduce, you know, your sex life becomes mundane, it becomes the same, and there isn't much change. There isn't much excitement. I'm just using sex as an example. Sure. This comes all the way down to our conversations, to how we earn, to how we work, to how we communicate, to how we talk, how we create conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. But just using sex as an example, you know, you become complacent. This is what it is. This is what she likes. This is what I like. This is what we do, and this is how we do it. And I want you to just visualize this for a second, that at any point in time in your life, at any point in time in your marriage, you can introduce something new. And that sounds really simple to people, but it's so interesting how few people actually get it, number one, and number two, execute on this. Mm-hmm. And I speak to this from a man who was married for 10 years, who became complacent, who did it the same way, who said it the same way, who had these very expected realities. Yeah. This is how it is. And what we want to talk about, I think, will be hard. Well, let me rephrase that. What we want to talk about, I think, will be difficult for some people to understand because of that singular reason of, look, we've been married for 10 years. She's this, I'm this, he's this, I'm this. And I want you to understand, like, as we talk about this, like, you could literally create change and become someone different in any moment. Mm-hmm. You can become a different human being. You can change the way that you think, the way that you operate, the way that you talk, the way that you walk, the way that you fuck in an instant. And that's very real. And what we want to talk about today, and kind of what we want to go into detail on, is that period of time in between 1.0 and 2.0, because this is literally what we did.
Yeah, it is.
This is exactly what we did, is choosing that change, planting that flag. And I know that it's probably one of the most difficult things for human beings to do. It's extremely difficult for people that have been in a relationship for a period of time. It's extremely difficult for people who are addicted to patterns. And make no mistake, that word is very real, addicted. If you are someone who is in a situation where you see no change, you feel like you're on that hamster wheel, there is a very, very, very high probability you're addicted to something. Yeah. Whether it's a story, whether it's a lie, whether it's bad habits.
And your body could be chemically addicted to those patterns.
You literally could. There are people who are addicted to drama. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was in a trauma bond relationship. I know I was addicted to patterns. And I look back in it now and I realize I was literally addicted. My body craved, my mind, my soul, my energy craved this conflict because that's all I knew. And I own that. I 100% stand in front of you and in front of everybody listening to this and talk about I had addictions to certain ways of being, certain ways of thinking that were radically fucking unhealthy. Yeah. Not just for me, but for my relationship, for my children, and I had to do things radically fucking different to get out of those patterns, but I did. Mm-hmm. And I say that very, very, proudly, not only for what I did, but for every one of you listening right now, men, women, couples, whoever, you have the ability to do that. And so I just wanted to share that because this conversation is really difficult for some people because that asterisk pops up. Well, you don't understand. We've been doing it. He's like this. She's like this. And all of those words, all of that thought process is just a story. Yeah. It's just a story because what we did was rewrote the entire fucking story. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And from 1.0 to 2.0, what really what I did, and truly, I'm going to say, like, we focused on ourselves. I didn't focus on if Sean was changing. I never even chimed in to look over to see if he was changing. It was irrelevant to me. I knew that when we broke up, there was things that I wasn't doing, and I didn't have boundaries in other places where I realized that I can't thrive in a relationship without those boundaries. One of them is, I never spoke my truth to Sean. I didn't. Like, he would do things and I would just brush him off, roll with it. Well, enough times it compounds into a fucking problem.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I will. So
go into detail on some things.
And I think a lot of women do this, but a lot of humans do this. It's like, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. Oh, you didn't show up for a date, or oh, you stood me up. Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. And I never actually told Sean that's not fine. Like, that's disrespectful. You're not. This doesn't work. Like, you don't get to drive, and I just get to go along with it. And that was a huge lesson for me, because I built up a massive amount of resentment towards you on 1.0, where by the end of it, I didn't even like you. And it was not necessarily you. I didn't teach you how to treat me. And we teach other people how to treat us by our own boundaries, by how we communicate.
Or lack thereof.
Yes. And this is non-communication or good communication. We teach people how to treat us. So with me saying, oh, it's fine, to myself all the time, I'm telling Sean, basically telling you, it's okay. You can just do whatever you want. I'm over here. I'm, just like a candle in the wind blowing around. And truly, that's not how I felt. I felt I was upset. I was resentful. And I had all these negative feelings that then are compounding and gets to a point where when there was a straw that broke the camel's back, and I finally just said, I don't want to see you anymore. Like, I'm done. And looking back, I learned in that 6-month period of us not talking that I did you a disservice. I did myself a disservice and you a disservice, where I didn't tell you that I was keeping score. I didn't tell you that you were striking out. It was like we were playing a silent game of baseball and all of a sudden the game's over and you didn't even know we were playing. And that's not right. I own that, and I owned that. I owned that before we even started talking again, that was something that was not, that wasn't going to serve me in life, being like that. I had to speak up and speak my truth. And I mean, I can talk about what you did, but I'd rather just talk about my part in that.
I want you to talk more about that, because between you and I mean, we run a very successful coaching business. We have like literally thousands of people that we've worked with, talked to, spoken to. I mean, in the Lion's Den with 1,500 members, and the messages that we get, that is a very, very, very real thing, not just for women, but for men. And I think what I want to focus on with what you just said, like, that I want you to talk more about, is that keeping score aspect, right? And and if you ask people, do you keep score? No, I don't keep score. But what you said subliminally, you were.
I was.
And I think what happens is you start to build up that resentment. And guys, this is the exact same fucking thing. Oh, dude, I bought her flowers and she didn't suck my dick. Or we went out on date night and had a great date night and I didn't get laid, right? And you build up this resentment, and you build up these walls. You're keeping score. And at the end of the day, literally, you're undermining not only yourself, but you're undermining the relationship. You're setting a precedence of, this is how it is, this is how it will be, and this is what I fully expect. And like talk about that, like between 1.0 and 2.0, that keeping score and what you changed, because I know it, and what you did in your individual work, in realizing like you've only got control over you, but you allowed me and my actions to fuck with you, and vice versa. And here this guy's to the point where you weren't being true to you, you weren't being authentic to you, you weren't being real to you, which then that's going to fuck up any relationship. That'll fuck up every relationship, period, no matter who you are, what you are.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it is I think people get in a pattern where they assume that if they just let it go, then they are actually just making it easier on the relationship or easier on the partner. But in the long run, they're being dishonest, which is creating, I like to think of them as like microfractures, right? You have enough microfractures in something, it will crumble. It just will. It doesn't have to be something catastrophic, but enough of those little things. And, I had to take a deep look and at radical accountability, right? We now live in the 4 agreements. There's another podcast you can go listen to that we did with 4 agreements. And we were not in that in 1.0. Neither of us were doing any of it.
Right.
Like
individually or together.
We were not living in the 4 agreements.
100%.
And it was completely destroyed what we had. Now, what's beautiful, and I want to highlight this, is we're focusing on all this negative. There was an undercurrent.
I don't think this is negative at all.
Well,
actually.
this
is
the
reality.
Parts that broke us up, yes.
Right.
But there was an undercurrent where I knew I could feel that you were doing work, even though like we weren't in a space where it was showing up very loud, and you knew I was doing work. Right. That's what attracted us. One of the reasons that attracted us to each other. But the radical accountability of me, I had to sit down and say, I'm not speaking truth. I'm not. I have no boundaries, and if I'm gonna do this, I have to own everything that I'm doing. And that was that 6-month period for me. I looked at everything. I didn't just look at what went wrong with us. I looked at my parenting skills. I looked at why I have multiple divorces, why I'm still single at 36. I was going through all these things. Like, I'm the common denominator for a lot of things that I don't like.
Right.
And it's really, really, really a powerful thing when you can go introspective and look inside and just ask why.
Right.
Like, why do I behave this way? Why am I passive aggressive? Why is it so hard for me to speak my truth? And just start like literally untangling this knot of who you are. And then you start to learn. And it's a long, long, long process. It's a lifelong process, truly. And it's a blessing in my eyes when I got to a point where I was willing to look inside. I was really willing to look at the shit that I do and own it and just say like, it's not everybody else's problem.
Right.
Like, I am the common denominator, and I have got a lot of shit that I need to look at. And that's what I did for 6 months. I did an inner child healing course. There's all these things that they're labeled, but it's all the same thing.
Right.
You're looking at your own shit and why.
And that's literally the same thing that I did. It was looking at, I'm the common denominator. I continue to date people and have these superficial relationships and have very superficial relationships plus very dramatic experiences in the sense that, like I'm continuing to have major disagreements like that aren't healthy. There's really not, I don't have the ability, and I'm not communicating with people on a level of respect that I want. And you can look and say, well, she's this and she's this and she's this. Then it was me looking at it
those people.
saying I'm the one picking these people. So why am I picking these people? Why am I doing these things? And I did the exact same thing in that period of time. It was like, it was interesting because this is something that I think is really, really, really fun about this conversation is when you taste something different, when you experience something different, right? I don't know why this came to me, but I was thinking about this. Like, people that have been in a relationship for a long time, sex becomes an interesting thing. Communication becomes an interesting thing, right? We set ourselves in such deeply rooted patterns. Mm-hmm. And then we start to project and we look and say, well, if I say this, she'll say this. If I do this, she'll do this. We talked on our sex episode about role playing. Mm-hmm. And this came to me as we were thinking about this and we were talking about this topic today, like, what would be a really interesting thought process and experience and experiment for, let's just say, the couple who's out there, who's been together for a long time, who's trying desperately to rewrite the story, liven things up, whatever. The idea of role play is actually really cool. Like, if you can get yourself to a place where you realize we're both going to show up as different people, like, we look at it as fun and it's sexy and the whole thing, but really think about that for 2 seconds. Like, what if you could show up sexually, just use sex for an example, as a different person? You've got your personality, I've got my personality, and we both commit to something. I'm a solutions-based guy. Like, everything that I look at, like, I don't ever throw up, well, this fucking sucks, without having some sort of solution. And so as we were thinking about this, like, specifically for the married people that have been in a relationship for a long time, how do we fucking do this? Like, you can go to a therapist and you can stare in each other's eyes and you can write down what you want and you can do all these other things. But what if you literally just became something, you tasted something different, right? You become somebody, I become somebody, we arrange this experience, we go on this date, we fuck like we're like teenagers again, whatever, but we're in that mode, and all of a sudden you experience something different, right?
Yeah.
That becomes the new benchmark. And with you and I, 2.0, we started to experience things differently. Commitments were kept, conversations were had that were different, that were difficult, that were actually respectful, where I was used to engaging in drama and high vibrational like insanity, where we didn't have that. And I was staying in those conversations with you, you were staying with me, and it was like, oh shit, this becomes the new norm. This can become something different, right? And I think that that's radically fucking important for people to hear and understand, because this is a hard topic, man. It's just hard to talk about how do we go from 1.0 to 2.0 or 2.0 to 3.0 or 3.0 to 4.0. Like, we're constantly evolving creatures.
Yeah, they're just chapters in our book.
Right? But we as a people become so complacent and again, I'm not, this is a blanket statement, but I'm saying this from my own personal experience. It's almost like you don't know where to go. What do I do? How do I change things? Right? And instead of looking at your lover, we look at these external forces, right? Well, I'll just go get a girlfriend, or I'll start banging somebody on the side, or I'll start putting money someplace else, or I won't share this, or I won't do that, or women's perspective, I'll just start bashing my man and going out with my girlfriends and getting pissed drunk, or start fucking the pool boy. And again, these are all extreme realities, but this is what's really happening in our world, right? So my challenge and thought process on this is like, in this particular situation where you're married, you've been together for a long time, what if you just role played? What if you became somebody different? You can go to counselors and therapists and coaches and listen to our podcast and whatever, but the idea of that is scary, but at the same time, it's sexy as fuck.
You know what I love about that is, you think of like these shifts. Most people do therapy, or most people do these like harder things, but what do we love the most? People love play.
Right.
We love to play.
Right.
Everyone's happiest when they're at play, not when they're doing work, not when they're going, talking about hard things. I literally am so glad you brought that up. That's such a smart first step into creating change, is doing it from a place of joy.
Well, you and I were dating, right? We didn't have a house and life insurance policies and commitments and whatever. You had your house, I had my house. You could tell me to fuck off, I'd leave, and we could disconnect for 6 months, right? Somebody who's married, and the second phase of this I want to talk about is people that are dating, right? Sure. And going into the 2.0s. But I really felt compelled to talk about this specifically for people in relationships, because this is, in my personal opinion, not only from my own experience, but from coaching and talking literally to thousands of people and working with hundreds of different married couples. This is something that's probably more difficult than anything else in a marriage.
Yeah.
You guys can both go buy a fitness course and get on treadmills and lose 25 pounds, whatever. But you're talking about reprogramming 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 years of conditioning, of expectations, of programming that you programmed me how to treat you. I programmed you how to treat me as we just in dating, right? Imagine doing that for 10 fucking years or 12 years or 15 years. It becomes the only thing you know. So how the fuck do we change this? We can't just go, well, you go to your house, I'll go to my house. We got 5 kids sitting in the living room, and we got dogs, and we got bills, and we got a white picket fence. Like, we can't just do that. So what do? I think being able to literally have this idea that you can change who you are, number one, but number two, going into something like you said with play and fun. Like, I truly believe that a lot of people that are in a relationship, that they want it to work, right? Yeah. Most people do. I think that there becomes a lot of arrogance, a lot of ego, a lot of frustration, a lot of scarcity that keeps people where they are. I was in that situation. I had so much fucking ego that, like, my woman's supposed to just do these things and she should be like fucking me all the time, and we should just have this crazy wild sex life. But I was emotionally someplace else. I was detached. I was making love to my work. I was literally like, my side chick was building this fucking business, right? Yeah. That's where I invested my time and my energy. So no wonder we were disconnected, right? But I think one of the really cool things that people can do is to try this on. And once you experience that one thing, and I'm going to share a story on this and how this came for me. When we 2.0, the very beginning of 2.0, Saxony had come to me and said, okay, I'm in. Now, hear me, guys, because if you're in a relationship, this is maybe where a lot of people are, where one person's like, yo, let's do this. Like, let's be in on this. Let's make some changes. Let's have a fucking wild sex life. Let's learn to communicate. Let's whatever. And there might be somebody on the other side who's not there yet, or isn't as jacked up about it, or maybe has bigger scars, or maybe
don't
has
want to change.
Right, more addiction. I think everybody truly wants to change, but it's the idea that this is scary. Well, what if she goes over here, or what if he goes over there, or he's going to go get ripped, and then all the bitches are going to want to fuck him, and she's going to get hot, and she's just going to start banging the pool boy, right? But really, like, thinking through this in the sense that, I just totally lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this?
About when we got back together 2.0.
Oh, the experience. I was sharing that experience. One of my things was social media, and as social media grew for me, I had a lot of distrust, mistrust, whatever, because I was in a relationship where there were a lot of lies. There was a lot of secrets. There was a lot of hiding. There was, and it wasn't healthy, right? And that was what I knew. And I knew that social media was combative and it was a problem, right? Case in point, like any girl that liked any one of my pictures, naturally I was just instantly fucking her. I was having a relationship with her. There's like 800 people that would like a post, and apparently, according to my relationship, I was. And again, this is much deeper shit, but I share that for a reason, because I had a lot of trauma around that. You didn't communicate with me because you didn't have the boundaries. You didn't have the respect for yourself to have the boundaries.
Correct.
And I didn't know how to communicate on this because it had always been traumatic. And one day I was driving home from the racetrack, and you had declared to me, a few weeks prior, look, I'm all in. Like, I want to date you. I want to be with you. I want to make this thing work. I'm not going to date anybody else. I'm not going to be talking to anybody else. I'm closing all other doors. I'm all in with you. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. High five, pat on the ass, rah, 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 let's go team. But deep down, I wasn't there yet. I was terrified of that.
Yeah.
I was scared of that. I had my own traumas and my own reservations and my own stuff that 6-month period of time I had worked on, but like that all in was kind of that next step for me.
Yeah.
And long story short, driving home from the racetrack, you got some text messages from somebody that would have otherwise caused World War 947. and I'll never forget, as long as I live, like you saying to me, hey, this girl's just texted me these messages, and this is what was said, and whatever. And instantly in my mind, I went into, there it is. She's going to lose her shit, fuck her. And I went into defense mode, to protect yourself mode, which really wasn't protecting myself. It was causing more trauma. And you were like, look.
That's really important what you just said.
What?
That you really weren't protecting yourself. You were just causing more trauma and drama, whatever.
And I'm sharing this story for a reason, because what I want people to understand from this, and what I pray people understand from this, is that we all have these ideas, and we have these thoughts, and our thoughts become habits, and they become patterns. And if you're constantly thinking something is going to be a problem, it will be.
Yes.
If you're constantly thinking my wife doesn't want crazy sex, that's exactly what will happen. If you're constantly thinking he's cheating, she's cheating, he wants to fuck her, she wants to fuck him, that's exactly what will become your reality. And so my thought process was that social media and a woman, if I was ever in a relationship, it would naturally become contentious, right? Mm-hmm. And I picked up the phone and I called you after I got these text messages from you, and you just flat out told me, you're like, look, this doesn't have anything to do with me. Yeah. It sucks getting these messages, but at the same time, you're not lying to me. You're not deceiving me. You haven't told me you're all in, but you're not all in. You haven't, we've never had the conversation about being exclusive. So there's no lying, there's no cheating, there's no infidelity, you're not fucking me over. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And you said that to me. You said, this has nothing to do with me. And in that moment, it was like, holy shit. Like, that was the experience that I needed for me to then make a declaration and to make a decision. Yeah. And I share that for a reason, because I have had multiple clients go through very similar situations where their mind is saying, this is how it will be. This is what will happen. If I tell her this is what she will do. If I do this is what she will do. And you literally write the story build the story, sell yourself the story, so much so that you never actually take any of those actions and move anything forward in truth. And so what we do is we then go cheat, lie, deceive, create outside things to try and fill those holes. And the reality is we never actually give the chance to the relationship or the chance to the experience. And I share that for a reason, because there's probably a lot of people listening right now, men that say, my wife doesn't want sex. She's always tired. There's a high probability that you might be right. There's also a high probability you're completely fucking full of shit and you come home like a miserable dick from work every day and she's just not attracted to you in that space. There's a high probability that your wife does want to have a lot of sex, that might be a fucking freak in bed and want to play with, jungle gyms and fucking dildos. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But so long as you never have that conversation, so long as you never broach that, so long as you never go into that scary spot, you'll never fucking know. And what I really, really, really love about where we went from 1.0 to 2.0 was understanding that the 4 agreements really are paramount. Like, you have to be impeccable with your word. And I have to tell you exactly what I'm thinking, exactly what I want, exactly what's on my mind, or else I'm fucking me over. And you have to listen to that. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want it to work with me, you have to not make assumptions. And, case in point, all of a sudden you guys want to spice up the sex life, right? Just because a guy goes to a sex store, ladies, and comes home with a bunch of fucking toys and crazy shit doesn't mean he has a porn problem. It doesn't mean he's a sex addict. It doesn't mean any of those things. You can make assumptions where all of a sudden he's like, yo, I want to do this, I want to do that, or he starts sending these flirty text messages or sexting or whatever. It doesn't mean that there's a problem. It doesn't mean that he's a fucking whack job, right? And fellas, just because you tell your woman that doesn't mean that she's going to assume those things and react that way. And it's really, really, really fucking important for people to understand this, because you and I sat on both sides of the equation. We did the assumption. We did the playing small. We did the not sharing our truth. We did those things in an effort to somehow protect ourselves, think that we were going to connect with somebody, and we weren't. And then we did the opposite, which is, look, here's exactly what I want. Here's exactly what I'm thinking. Here's exactly what I like. Here's exactly what I want to have. Here's my non-negotiables that are hard fucking no's and hard passes. And I have found more connection with you. I found more connection in our relationship and our marriage than I've ever had in any relationship, living in that space, living in that truth. And I really do believe that people that have been in a relationship for a long period of time, it's almost like the shock. You need that shock. Like I'm thinking like the paddles on your heart. Your heart stops and you're flatlining. Our relationship is flatlined. Our sex life is flatlined. Our communication is flatlined. Blah. We're just in this blah state. You need to fucking put those paddles on and bam, like shock the shit out of it. Create something big. Create something pivotal. Create something exciting. Create something. What are other words that we're looking for here? Like really, really.
It's really just living your life, like turning your life back on.
Yeah, but people don't know how to do that. What I'm saying is like using a singular moment as that experience, like literally imagining like setting the stage to where you're going to do something and you both agree to it. That's really fucking uncomfortable. That's really uncomfortable. You and I coming back together, it wasn't easy. 2.0 was not easy because we had to create the change, but then we had to become that change and live that change. And so I want people to obviously take away tools from this and have the experience of well, what do we do now? Like, how do we do this, right?
Well, one thing I want to point out too is it's manipulation when you're not telling the truth. You're manipulating the situation to where you don't have to have these hard conversations, and you're taking away someone's ability of choice, right? Like when we got back together and I had really strong boundaries of, if we're going to date, you're going to show up. You're not going to, like, if you want my time and you schedule a date with me, you need to show up. And that was like, if you don't show up, then you're not seeing me. And in doing that, I've given you a choice of saying, I either can do this, and now I know what happens if I do. I either get to continue to see this woman or I get to not see this woman. I gave you a choice. And that I think is very underestimated, because there's a fear of I'm risking loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I say that to you, if I set a boundary and I tell you this is how I want to be treated, there's no expectation on you of what you'll do. I've just spoke my truth, and then what that's doing is that's allowing love to truly flow.
Right.
Like you feel
that's not scarcity.
That's not scarcity.
Like that is very, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And it's an action of love.
And
it's an action of respect.
Right. And it's not an ultimatum.
Right.
Boundaries
100%.
are not ultimatums. And if you don't understand the difference, educate yourself.
Yep.
I did not say, Sean, if you don't show up, this
Then
is what's
I'm
going to happen. Then I'm gonna.
Right.
It was, this is how, if you want to spend time with me in your life, if
Right.
you truly want that, this is what I require. It doesn't mean you have to do anything.
Right.
It's just you get the choice.
Yep.
And that is something that's so powerful, especially when we get questions. It's like, how do I make my spouse blank?
Right.
You don't make
You
your
can't
spouse
make them
blank anything.
anything.
You get to speak your truth.
Yep.
Say what you want. It's, express your needs, your wants, your desires, your boundaries, your fears, all these things. But there's no expectation attached to that.
Right.
And you cannot expect people to change just because you want them to.
Right.
Honestly, like, I don't want to go to talk about kids right now, but we have adult children right now. And this is one of my biggest things I'm looking at is, if my children want to go off and be hobos and train hop and make campfires and not have jobs, they can do that.
Right.
Guys, children, spouses, co-workers, people, they're free to live their life how they choose. You can't go around putting rules on other people and how they are to behave in your relationship, right. Or you're fucked. That's like leading with fear, not leading with love. And if you want more love in your relationship, put more love there. And another thing I thought of earlier is seeing through the eyes of love in your partner. So especially when conflict happens with us, I've really gotten to a point where I look at you and I'm like, why is this happening? Like, why? I told you this last night when we were in the bath. I used to pray, Sean, show up. Sean, show up. And I remember thinking, why is there this struggle for Sean to show up? And there's a deeper thing than him physically not showing up. There's fear. You were scared. There was trauma. You had been in a relationship that you were still healing from. I mean, there was all this, and I chose to see that in you, and I truly did. And that's why, instead of being, even 2.0, there was certain times where I'm like, show up, babe. Mm-hmm. And it's because I believed in you. It's because I knew I could truly see you for where that was coming from, and it had nothing to do with me, and I knew that. And I didn't make it about me. It was more of like, this man that I love spending time with in front of me has this stuff that he shared with me, and that's why this is hard. And I can either push him away further by shaming him and blaming him and throwing, negative, shade at you, which, how does that bring you closer to me? How does that bring you closer to healing? How does that bring you closer to what I truly want for us? And that's connection. If I can have empathy and see, like, you are the man you are today from all the things that have happened to you since you were a little bitty baby. If I ignore that and just judge you for what comes to the surface all the time, we're not going to get very far, because you can look at your partner and be like, oh, he's this way, and you can bash it all day long. But if you truly love that person, they're a gift in your life. To be married, and I believe this with all my heart, to be married, that is such a fucking blessing. I've spent years wondering if that was ever going to be a part of my life. And now that I'm married, it's like, I have such an appreciation for that. And I think a lot of people that have been married for a long time, they've lost that appreciation for this person who's willing to do life with them. Like, there's so many humans on this planet, and you've got this person that's committed to you. Like, look at them with love. Even if you've been married for a long time and they're driving you fucking crazy and they don't do, like, most of the things they do you don't like, find the things you do like and remember why you married them. Remember why you love that person and create a new chapter. But it's so much of, like, people just don't see things. They see things from a surface level.
We'll talk about that, because one of the things that keeps coming up in questions, in conversations, especially with some of my clients, is that I'm scared to do it because of. and there's not that space. Like when you're talking about the word that comes to mind is grace. That's your word.
Yeah.
It's who you are. But like, there is a lot of fear from men of approaching their woman. They've been married, they've been together, because she will this. And the truth is, there might be years of shaming, years of blaming, years of victimization. There might be all of that, right? It's very possible it could be. It's very possible it could be a story. And I'm speaking to the men as a man right now, but I want you to talk about this, because what you just said is radically fucking powerful. And I believe it's one of the things that holds us back is men, truthfully, like, the mentality is, I married you, I was in love with you, I am in love with you, but, and you have scarcity now. Like, if I talk about my desires or my fantasies or my thoughts or my wishes or any of these other things, you're going to insert whatever you want right there, right? And vice versa. You want to talk to your man about the emotional connection and being present and not being on the phone all the time, or creating the time to disconnect from work and to being with the kids and being with the family and the whole thing, but you don't because of insert the blank, right?
Yeah.
Or insert, whatever you want. One of the things you said, I think that's radically fucking powerful, is being able to look at your partner and be like, this is my partner. This is my lover. Like, I want this person. If your lover fucking fails, if your goal or your desire is to somehow win and beat, and like, I won, you fell, I won, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You have got to reposition and look at this person as, this is my partner. Like, if I want to fucking thrive, I need to thrive personally and ensure that I'm in a space that I can help us thrive. Because if I all of a sudden go into fucking some la la land, depressed state, that doesn't help you. No. That doesn't help us.
Right.
And if all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm angry at you because you don't fuck me enough or love me enough, and I'm going to disconnect and shame you and blame you and treat you like shit, newsflash, I fucking lose more than anything. And what you just said is so powerful, because in my opinion, it's one of the hardest things for people to do. Because we're so deeply rooted in our patterns and our thoughts, is when you're looking at that person, you automatically assume they're going to say, they're going to do. And truthfully, having been in a relationship that was this way, where there was not a lot of communication, there wasn't a lot of empathy, there was a lot of ego, like, I was scared to talk to my wife about things. I didn't want to talk to my wife about things because I would be judged, or because it would be perceived this way. It would be, this. And I know that our post-divorce, like, she and I having infinite amounts of conversations around it, she didn't want to come to me and talk to me about these things because I would say, or I would do, or she was worried about this, or this. And the truth is, had we actually had these conversations and had them from a place of grace and looking at this as my partner, not my enemy, there are so many people in relationships that literally have created a situation where their partner's their enemy.
Yeah.
You're the one holding us back. You're the one, we can't communicate. You're not this, you're that, you're whatever. And you've literally created a villain out of your lover.
Yeah.
And you've created you're in the drama triangle. You're either the hero, the victim, or the villain, and you're villainizing somebody and somehow thinking like that's going to help you. It's not. It's going to it's going to erode the foundation even more. And what I appreciate about where we are, and what I strongly encourage people to pay attention to, is what you just said, in the sense that, like, this is your partner, man. Like, you should want them to win, and them thriving helps you.
Yeah.
The healthier you are mentally, physically, psychologically, guess what? The more that helps me. Like, the more that helps me, right? Like, the healthier I am, the more I take care of me, the more I fill my own cup, the better husband I am, the better I show up. But I have been on both sides of the equation where I don't speak truth. I'm afraid to. I have fear around it. I have a shit ton of stories around it. And I'm now in a completely different situation with you because I did build that. And I realized the only way that I want to have a relationship is when it's all in, every word. And we've had this conversation many times. Like, we don't take the shit personally. Yeah. I'm going to tell you exactly what's on my fucking mind. So when you ask me a question, it might not be pleasant. It might not be what you thought or what you wanted to hear. It might not be the most jovial thing in the world, but there's the one thing that I fully expect to always have, and that's that that it's truth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I really pray that you guys hear this and understand that if you actually give a fuck and you're listening to your lover and they're speaking truth, and it might take a little bit, it might take some practice in you guys getting to this state where we haven't connected. We've just been two ships passing in the night. She's always running kids around to soccer practice. He's always at work, blah, 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 blah. We never see each other. We never communicate. We never talk. There's a shit ton of people that end up in that scenario where you haven't had a deeply rooted conversation. Right. You haven't shared truth. You haven't been all in ever, if at all, right? And so it is radically difficult to do, but it is so fucking liberating. Yeah. And it is so powerful. And I have seen, not only personally, but I've seen through many clients, like, the thing that's literally holding them back from greatness in a relationship is simply that communication and having that ability to give a fuck about your person, listen to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. They're not, most people, I truly believe, I don't think most people are trying to tear the other person down. Yeah. But in our minds, like, we have ego, we have walls, we want to win. And we feel like if we're right, then we win.
Then we're protected.
We're protected. Look, I did everything I could. Yeah. I did it all, okay? I talk to people all the time going through divorces. Look, I did it all. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it's like, it's the score. You're just fucking keeping score. Well, how'd that work out for you, friend? Mm-hmm. You ended up divorced. Now you're splitting millions of dollars, and you're going to spend the next 2, 3, 4 years completely mind-fucked, in court, out of court. Your kids are going to fucking... Yeah. It's not good. And it all boils down to that, like, well, I did all of these things, and she didn't. Yeah. And it's not a competition. It's not a competition. Nope. Your feelings are real. And you and I have talked about this quite a few times because it's a difficult conversation. My feelings are real. Mm-hmm. How I feel is real. What I think is real. What I'm experiencing is real. What you're experiencing is real. It might be radically different for me. I may not see it or understand it, but I have the respect and the trust enough in you to know that you're not going to lie to me. You're not going to create falsehoods. You're going to speak the truth. Mm-hmm. That's what connects us. Right. That's what helps us, truthfully have such a ridiculously powerful sex life. That's what's helping us build multiple multi-million-dollar companies. That's what's helping you and I, like, navigate this course of divorces and new relationship and having blended families and kids, and the whole thing is being all in and knowing, like, I'm not taking any of this shit personally. Yeah. And we've talked about, like, head and heart. Like, you have to hear and speak from your heart. It's so complex. Like, this is such a complex thing, and like, when we get triggered by something, we go into this protection mode, and it's very, very, very biological, right? It's like bigger than what we consciously have control over. But it's in the moments that follow, and it's like, that's when we question why. Like, okay, what do I actually feel right now? What am I trying to accomplish right now? What do I really want? And I want love and connection. And I believe that every human being on this planet wants to be loved, wants to be heard, wants to be seen. Like, those are so solid. And so when we go into these situations with our partner, it's like, remember that, like, this is one of the things we've struggled with, and not struggled with, but we're growing through, I like to say more, is truly, we're so assertive, both of us, right? And it gets to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, just shut up, Saxony. Just fucking hear him. And I don't do it on purpose. Like, I'm not like, I'm going to ignore him. But I've caught myself to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hear with my heart. It doesn't fucking matter what my head says is right or wrong or this or that or any of the story. I just need to hear my husband with my heart. And then what I do with that is really important. And it's truly hear you and let that absorb, and then turn around. And I love the idea of be the change, right? When we're in conflict,
and this is with any relationship, when you're in conflict, the last thing you want to do is like go snuggle up on your partner or give them affirmations or go buy them flowers. Like, it really hurts the old ego, right? It's just like, oh, fuck this asshole. Like, you just, everything in your mind is saying
You've
no.
Never said that. That's a terrible thing to say, dear.
But what I've learned is what me winning is us getting back to a place of connection as fast as possible.
Will you say that again, please?
Me winning is us getting back to a place of connection as fast as possible. I
would echo that. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say that from a man's perspective. Me winning is not being in conflict with you. It's not being right or wrong. Yeah. Me winning is us being good, us being out of conflict, us being smooth, us being good. And we all know what that means. Probably the most, we could cut that one bit from this podcast, and that's the most. Anyways, go ahead.
Energetically, and I want to, and I like to be like, as always, like, we're super open about this with you guys. And when Sean and I have conflicts, there are times when I physically don't want to touch him. Like, everything energetically is just like, and I have learned that the best thing I can do to break my own patterns of protection, because me protecting myself is, I wall up and I stay safe.
Yep.
That's what I do. It has been a beautiful practice of mine to literally, I physically touch him. And that forces me outside of being walled up. It seems so silly. It's fucking hard.
It's real. It's hard as shit.
It is really, really, really hard for me to give love and affection and affirmations when all I want to do is wall up and run. Because that's what I'm good at.
Yeah, when we have conflict, the last thing I want to do is send you a text message and tell you that I appreciate you and that I love you and that I'm glad that we're doing life together and the whole thing. I want to tell you to fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what I'm thinking. But that's that mental thing. And in all due respect to the conversation, sometimes it takes a couple hours. Yeah. Sometimes it takes a day, right? But we always, and I joked about this on one of my Instagram posts that I was appreciating you. I was like, there's days that I want to leave her at a gas station and drive off.
He's not joking.
There are days that I want to, but like, I'm going to come back. It might take a day or two, but I'm always going to come back and pick you up, right? But like, that's true. Like, I have to get and this is the battle that I go through I want to war. I want to be right. I want to prove. That's that little kid sitting in the corner, having a temper tantrum. Hear me, hear me, hear me, blah, 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 whatever. But I always come back to that reality that so long as I'm in that conflict, so long as I'm in that space, I'm not producing the money that I want to produce. I'm not loving the way that I want to love. I'm not being loved the way that I want to be loved. I'm not connecting. My workouts aren't the best. So it's like the faster I can go from the little kid, I want to be right, I want to prove you wrong, I want to, now dude, this is your partner. Get back to that level. Yeah. Get back to that love. Get back to that connection. And I want to say one thing on that too. There are a lot of things that are trivial. And I want to say this the right way, but fuck it, whatever. You'll get what I'm saying. There are a lot of disagreements that we have that are trivial, that really aren't even about what we're discussing or what we think we're discussing.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I share this is because there's a lot of people who are like, well, you need to have resolution. There needs to be resolution to everything, right? I vehemently disagree. There's a time and a place where we have a conversation where we do need to have a clear understanding of something. There's other times, and I would be willing to bet that the majority of the times that we are in conflict or we are in disagreement or we are dealing with some bullshit, most of the time, would you agree, that it's not even about what we're really disagreeing about? It's some other fear, some other trigger, some other bullshit.
Always.
I think there's some times that we're, whatever. Majority of the time, it's that. Yeah. And the reason I say that is simply because we always talk about, sex is the great equalizer. Like, if we're in a really crazy place, we just fuck. Like, I'll just grab you, you grab me, and we'll just fuck. I'll even send you a text message. We could be a complete disagreement. I'm like, I'm coming home and I'm going to bang the shit out of you right now. Or, right? Am I making this up? Like, this is...
No, I've literally gotten on top of you. You're not happy with me
I'm
at all.
Disconnected. I'm like sitting there.
I'm going to fuck you. And you're like, we're going to work through this.
Yeah, but here's my point in saying that is there are a lot of people, and I've heard this in the self-help world and in the therapy world, whatever, that you've got to then sit down and you have to lay this thing out and get a whiteboard and how are you feeling and what are you thinking. There's a time and a place for that, but a majority of the time, what we're disagreeing about or what we're disconnected on isn't truly what's happening right now. It's a past fear, it's a past trauma, it's something going on, and simply getting back to the place that we're good, where we're operating, we're moving, is all that's needed. And so I want to share that because you don't have to have a fucking State of the Union over every single feeling or disagreement. Sometimes literally it just takes sending the text message saying, I love you, we're good, let's go. We're doing tacos or meatloaf for dinner.
I think that's it though, is people just want acknowledgement.
And you just keep moving. Right. Yeah. You just keep moving. Like, I don't need to write you this big, long fucking thing about, okay, I understand your feelings and I empathize with you. Sometimes it's just being like, yo, I'm just going to go bring some flowers home. And I know that you're going to get you right. I'm going to get me right. And you know that by me going and getting the flowers and bringing them home, it's not waving the white flag. It's not the truce. There isn't a need for that. But it's me acknowledging, yo, I'm far more powerful loving you. I'm far more powerful being in this place of goodness for me than being at war with myself or being at war with you. And you know, I bring that up simply because I've heard from a lot of different people and read in books and things, you know, you have to sit down and you have to map it all out and what happened and why did you go here, and I have to listen and you have to listen. Sometimes that is very true. A majority of the time, if we just fuck, we're good. If I just send you a picture or you send me a picture or we send a text or I go get some flowers or you just go get a cookie, we're good. We're good. And it takes a lot of discipline to be like, okay, I'm not at war with her. I'm not at war with myself. I'm just having a shitty fucking day. I'm having a shitty afternoon. I stubbed my toe. I hit the bed. It has nothing to do with our relationship. I was triggered by a song that I heard. I saw something. I heard something. It has nothing to do, and it's not this earth-shattering thing. Hit the reset button. Do what you got to do. Get your mind right. Tell her that you love her. Tell him that you love him. Keep fucking moving. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, the differences between 1.0 and 2.0 is that.
Yeah.
It's that we speak truth, we handle it, we're breaking our own patterns. Like, okay, so I was thinking about, it's like going to the gym, and when you start lifting or doing a new routine, it is so uncomfortable. And that's all it is. Like, that breaking your pattern should be your goal of like, I want to behave this way. I want to do this because that's what's comfortable. Me walling off and telling you to fuck off is exactly why I broke up with you 1.0, because I was like, I don't like what you're doing. I don't want to deal with you. I'm fine on my own. Shut down, walled off. However, that's not what I want. And I don't think that's what any of us want. You know, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? That's what we're doing. Your natural state is to fight. Mine is, I just like shut down, off. Boot out. And that's radical accountability. And it's cool once you can see it and identify it and you're like, all right, here I get to go face to face with breaking a pattern. And it'll change your life.
It will, and it's hard as shit. But I want to touch on this really fast and really help show people the importance of this, because I can keep fighting. You can come to me, you can bring the olive branch, and I can fucking set it on fire, right? And ladies, you know, if you want your man to ravish you, you want your man to connect with you, whatever, and he takes a step, even if it's a small step, and you make him feel like a piece of shit, you talk down to him, you judge it, you critique it, you're literally fucking yourself over so hard you don't even know. Because as a man, like, we do have a lot of pride, we do have a lot of ego. We're the men, there's expectations put on us that aren't even from the relationship, just the world and culture. We don't have time to go down that rabbit hole, but that's just the truth with being a man. Speaking for myself, I feel like I'm like a lot of these motherfuckers out here, and I know that there's a lot of pride. I know that there's a lot of ego. I know that the sensitivity, the emotions aren't the thing that we're really the best at. We're working on it. I'm working on it every fucking day. But I want to really encourage the ladies listening to this. Like, if your man comes to you and extends even the smallest olive branch, there's nothing more empowering than you swallowing that pride.
That's queen shit.
That ego, and accepting it and loving him. And even though you want to lash out and go, yeah, but you know what? You've done this for 10 years or 20 years. The only fucking way that dude is going to fucking change and be that man is if you actually accept it. And you can judge the fuck out of it. And vice versa. Same thing goes for the fellas. Fellas, if you got a woman and she's giving you an olive branch, when you come lay on me and I'm like, I want to be mad, I want to say no, but you're like, I'm going to hug you. I can push you away. I can shove you away. I can say, get away from me. I can be a little bitch, or I can sit there and it is uncomfortable. Yeah. I want to be like, God damn it, get away from me. But I know like warring with me and warring with you doesn't get me what I want.
Yeah.
And I challenge you guys listening to this. Like, I challenge you with everything that I have, like, and to listen to what we just talked about in that sense, because that's what I love about our relationship. In my opinion, that's what makes us radically fucking different. And that's truly what I believe our superpower is I can war with you all day long. I can be a fucking dick for a week. I can carry shit and pile that fucking shit up and fill my backpack full of resent and frustration and games and keeping score, but I don't win. I don't get what I want. Right. That doesn't help me at all. You can do the same thing. You have to be in a place in your relationship that when you're at war, regardless of who takes a step, you have to be living in a place of grace. This is Saxony's word. I'm saying it more. You're rubbing off on me, dear.
I love it.
You have to be in a place of grace where you eliminate the need for win, the need for ego, the need to prove. Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to prove you're loving me. Yeah, but I just want to make sure you know how fucking hurt I am. I want to make sure that you know how bad you fucked up. I want to make sure that you're feeling worse than I'm feeling right now. Yeah. What does that get me? Nothing. Terrible fucking results.
Hurt people.
Terrible fucking results, right? And this is a major challenge for me. You said this last night. One of the things that I've struggled with my life is receiving love. I haven't really known how to do that. Yeah. Because everything from my dad, everything was conditional. Since I was a little kid, it was always conditional. Love was conditional. Acceptance was conditional. Approval was conditional. Like, everything was conditional since I was a little kid, right? And that's deeply rooted in my DNA. It's how it's always been, right? If you tell me you love me, you're lying. There's no way. You want something from me, you're manipulating me. That is literally how I've always been. Yeah. It's just how it is. And I was in a really, really, really poor, bad relationship. I don't know how else to say it. You know, that didn't start off that way, but eventually the real shit came out, and it was extremely traumatic for me emotionally, right? And so the love and the trust and the whole thing. And I know that there's a lot of men out there that struggle with this. We struggle with being loved. We struggle with feeling loved. We just pound on our chest and we keep fucking going, and we don't say anything. And yeah, we nod our head and say thanks and whatever, but we just keep fucking going, and we get into the motions of things, and we don't know how to do that. And one of the things that I have seen, and for me personally, is like, when I take those steps, when I extend the olive branch, or when I make the investment, like having you accept it, be gracious with it, whatever you want to call it, has changed the entire game for me. And you said this last night, and I appreciated you saying that. Like, you've noticed that I'm more willing and open to accepting love. Yeah. And it's because I've been more willing to open up and to share these things, and I have a place where it lands. Yeah. And this is something, again, I'm going to beat this horse, because I know that there's somebody listening to this that needs to fucking hear this. And I know that there are couples listening to this that need to fucking hear this, that when you hold shit over your lover, like, you're hurting yourself, man. Yeah. And it might be the teeniest, you might be married for 20 years and have deeply, deeply rooted pain, frustration. But if that dude takes a step, you've got to fucking accept it. Yeah. You might not want to. You might feel hurt. You might have years of shit that you want to just poop on the floor right now. I'm going to lay it all out. We're going to dump it all out. But there's nothing more powerful. And how we got to this change was these little things. Yeah. Was accepting it, loving it, appreciating it, and vice versa. Fellas, like, you could be the toughest motherfucker out there and have years of trauma and years of baggage and years of bullshit, and your wife shows up, your girlfriend shows up, and she extends an olive branch. She makes that move to come to you. You can show up like a fucking asshole. You can show up like a little boy sitting in the corner, making sure that she knows how bad you hurt. Or you can actually meet her and start building these bridges, which truly are what will change your life.
Yeah.
And it's what I believe our real superpower is we have the ability to look at it and say, this isn't about me. I don't need to be mad right now. I want to be mad. I have every idea that I should be mad, but I want to win for me and connect with my woman, my wife, more than I want to be mad.
Yeah.
Because I know what's going to help me. And I am a man who's literally standing in front of you in the world saying, like, the results show what that does. Yeah. I'm making more money than ever before. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. My relationships are fucking amazing. I have more clarity and focus than I've ever had in my entire life by doing this.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that. I got really emotional hearing that.
I'm good, baby.
I look at it too. You are good. I look at being in a partnership too is a great responsibility. When you sign up to do life with someone, and looking at that is a great responsibility. When I married Sean, I didn't marry an expectation of who you were going to be. I married all that you are, the good and the bad, if you want to label it that, in having these things. And it's like I take it on as a great responsibility to be a light in your life, be an asset, be of value, and only add to your life. And I think that that's what happens a lot with couples, is it becomes, instead of being an asset, you become a liability. Mm-hmm. And there's this compounding pile up of all this liability, and you stop seeing your partner for this evolving person who's just trying to find love and find grace and be important and make an impact and all these things, and we lose sight of that. And with you, it's like, I've always known you've had trust issues. That's why we didn't work out the first time. And this is just one thing I'll talk about with that, is I know that. So when things come up and I know it's a trust issue thing, it's my great responsibility to help create a new truth, a new reality.
It's my responsibility to handle my shit,
yes,
and to rewrite my own stories. But what helps that is experiencing something different. And that's what I think is really profound. But what you're saying is like,
I don't think it's my responsibility to change you. It's my responsibility to show up in the best way I can to love and honor myself and the relationship and you, to create a better future and where we're going. And if I don't show up in as my best self, I'm honestly not helping. Right. And we're humans, so there's a lot of you trip a lot. Like, you're gonna overreact, and it's fine tuning the reset and getting quicker. And I've even noticed, like, even in our relationships, what is so beautiful, it's like I can see this improvement. It's just slowly changing, but yet it's rapidly changing. It may not, this may be a long week or a long month, but if you look back on a year or 2 years, it's rapid growth. We talked about this last night.
What we've done in 2 years is fucking ridiculous.
And it's because I choose love. Right. I choose love even when everything in my mind tells me fuck off. Yeah. Run, retreat, blah blah. And I'm just saying with you, like anything in life, I get, you get a choice. We all get a choice. We either stay or we go. We either move forward or, we could just stay put. But, it's those important moments of realizing that we always have a choice. Like, you don't make me feel anyways. Right. You don't make me do anything. That is, I am radically accountable for all of my actions.
Yep. And I am too.
Yeah.
Like, I can, if I'm mad, I'm choosing to be mad, regardless of what you do, regardless of what you say. Yeah. And I'm choosing that. I think the thing that is really, really, really important for people to understand is, like, when we talk about all of these things in 1.0 to 2.0, it was truly us becoming fully accountable for who we are. Yeah. And not just creating boundaries, but really, really, really living like what we wanted. And what you were saying earlier is like, if you want something, like, you have to live it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be loved, love. If you want to have, you know, a good sex, like, this is what I like. I always go back to sex. This is just a man thing. It's what we do, right? It's it's like crayons, though. It's the simplest way, because dudes are fucking stupid. We're dumb, okay? But if I bring it always down to a penis, then it's easy for people to understand, right? But like, this is the one thing I love about our sex life, and it truly translates to our communication. It translates to our goals. It translates to everything else. If I want to fuck you, right? Like, I fuck you. If I want something, I do that. I don't wait or think or whatever. And you're the same way, right? And this is, again, without the rules, without anything else. Like, if I want to speak something to you, I speak it. I say it. It's important for me to voice it, right? And there's so many rules around, like, well, the perfect time or this, or it's like, look, it's not Wednesday night. We only fuck on Wednesday night. What are you doing trying to bang me in the middle of the afternoon, right? This is the reality. If I want to fuck at 2 p.m, where I'm coming home, I'm texting you, yo, meet me at the house in 15 minutes, right? But this is what I really love about this reality is I'm living me. Like, I'm not happy because of you. I'm not sad because of you.
Yeah.
My relationship exemplifies these things. It adds to these things. It adds to reality. But that's, for me, the difference between 1.0 and 2.0.
Yep.
Is I want to be a dick because you're saying this or that or whatever. And I think in those 6 months, you and I realized, like, we've allowed our own world to be dictated by other people and other emotions and other things. And I think what you and I chose to do in those 6 months is go balls deep in finding our own happiness, being happy without somebody, being happy with somebody, but just being fucking happy. And when we're mad, we choose to be mad. We choose to get out of being mad. And when we want to say something, we say something. When we want to communicate, we communicate. And I think it's, in my opinion, that's the single most important thing that we do every day is ourselves. I answered a question on Instagram the other day, Q&A, and my family is not first. I'm first.
Yep.
And that might be foreign to a lot of people, and that might be weird to a lot of people, but I am first. I come first. My emotional, my psychological, my happiness is more important than your happiness. And I want people to really understand that. Like, I am responsible to me first. Period.
Yeah.
What makes me a good husband is taking care of me. What makes you a good wife is you take, and that's, I think, what the real, breaking everything down to the simplest thing of what we chose to do over those 6, 7, 8 months is not try and fix anybody, not try and program anybody, but put ourselves first. Because at the end of the day, when there is conflict, when there's this, when there's that, I put me first.
And if you're trying to get the love you so desire from an external force, like, if I'm trying to get love from you because I need love, I'm already fucked.
Yep.
Because then it's conditional and it's dependent, and there's all these things. I have to be full
100%.
first. That way, if you show up with more, cool. If not, I'm still okay. And
100%.
that's really, really important. There's a quote that I heard about boundaries, and it's, boundaries are a way that I can simultaneously love myself and love you at the same time. And there's
They're not bad.
They're not bad.
Negative.
Like,
they're actually the opposite.
That's honoring. That's
Yep.
honoring self and honoring you, and saying, this is how I can love both of us simultaneously.
Yeah. I think the people knowing, and there's an idea that has been floating around that for a good reason, that we've all been programmed, especially men, you know, family first, family first, family first. I mean, Jesus, it's at the primary message of some religions and some faiths is family first, family first, family first.
Yeah.
I vehemently disagree. I disagree 1,000%. Me first, you first. And people look at that and say it's selfish.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is there's far too many people out there that are trying to make their family happy, make their wife happy, make their husband happy when they're fucking miserable. And the difference between 1.0 and 2.0 is I chose to make me happy. I did shit that made me happy. And when I'm filling my own cup, when I'm showing up the best for me, that's when I believe that I'm the most connected to you.
And that can, I get why there's pushback on that, because that can be misinterpreted if you're doing it from an ego place. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
That's not going to fly. We're talking about like honoring yourself, taking good care of yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, like truly keeping so much love in your own space. It's not the ego or like selfishness we're talking about. It's honoring and truly doing what you need to do for yourself first, and then you can show up for others.
Yeah. A lot of words in there that are weird that I don't want to get all about the semantics of selfishness and this and that and the other, but I can say without question, I think the reason that we work as well as we do is because I put myself first. And I think that you would probably echo that and say the reason that we work as well as we do is because you put yourself first.
For sure.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
God bless America.
We were going to talk about food storage.
Nah. Whatever. Get some cans of chicken, put them in your fucking garage, and you're good. We'll talk about that another time.
There's your teaser.
There very much is a relatable conversation here to what we were talking about before we jumped on here with regards to the state of the world and whatever, and this idea that we're going to go out and save the world and whatever, and most people are literally living paycheck to paycheck and don't have any money in the bank account to do anything. So it's like, again, the same philosophy of, I got to get me right. I got to get my house in order. I got to take care of my shit before I go out and try and change the fucking world. I got to get my house in order before I try and change my family. I got to get me right before I try and marry a girl or go date or be in the, world, whatever. It's very, very, very relatable.
Yep.
Anything else, dear?
I really like your socks today.
These are great. Yeah. But did you die?
Casey
Fleischman, she sent these to me. I love them.
She hand dyes them, guys.
Yeah, they're really cool. Shout out to Casey Fleischman for these
cute as can
amazing
be.
tie-dye socks that are actually Nike socks that I'm wearing with my Nike shoes. Just to.
We're looking for a Nike sponsorship, just some.
Oh my God! I can't believe you wear Nikes. They hate America. Fuck it. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, you're the furthest from hating Nikes. Dude. You got a problem.
Well, people everybody and their dogs like, why would you wear Nikes? They hate America. Like, bro, if you based every single thing that you purchased off the political opinions of a CEO, CMO, or sponsored athlete, you would literally have no car to drive. You would not be eating food. You think Tyson Chicken and all these other fucking things, like they all believe the same thing you believe? You believe your Ford, your Chrysler, your GM, your G-Shock watch, your fucking hat, your underwear, Hanes underwear, your Hanes beefy tees. Get fucking serious for 2 seconds, friends. But I digress. Stay tuned for the next episode where we smash every single political belief around your clothing and what you have. I mean, my favorite part of this, and we'll leave with this. My favorite part is people talking about smashing China. Those are Chinese-made shoes. They make that shit in China. I'm like, did you by chance leave that comment from your cell phone, your iPhone, or your Droid that was made in? Oh, that's right, China. You hate the Chinese shoes. You hate the Nikes from your Apple that was made in China, or your Droid that was made in China. But hey, these truths, they just, people don't want to hear them. Anyways, guys, we love you, babe. Anything else? Great conversation. Let's go get naked. Let's have sex.
That question came from Instagram poll.
What question?
A lot of people wanted to talk about 1.0 and 2.0. So,
yeah.
As always,
this is very applicable, and we love talking about this, and there's a lot more we could talk about with 1.0 and 2.0, but this is kind of I think probably the most important aspect of it. There's a lot of practical things that we did differently and things that we experienced differently, and there's a lot of little things along the way that, I keep saying one other thing. The one thing that's really cool about this is we are without question creatures of like believing things when we see it, right? You show me something, right? Yeah. And here's what's really cool about this is the more you did you and got you right, the more I saw things that helped me break down walls, right? And the more I showed up and kept my commitments and kept my word and boundaries, it helped you shift and pivot and trust me, right? And so it's almost like this who's going to go first type of a deal. And I'd have you guys consider for a second that, ladies, you show up a little bit different, and yeah, he might react and maybe mock it or laugh a little bit, but you're showing him something different, and vice versa.
Yeah, do it anyways.
Like when he actually doesn't have his cell phone for a date night, don't fucking make fun of him and ridicule him, whatever. He's showing you something different. Believe that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you did a lot by you doing you. You naturally showed me things differently that helped me break down barriers. By me doing me, keeping my word, doing things, whatever, it showed you. So
yeah,
the way that the way that you continue to believe that someone's changing is by changing. Mm-hmm. The way that you literally watch your relationship changing is by fucking changing. Yeah. So there's definitely a proof in the pudding aspect to that becomes really, really, really fun. Like when we have disagreements, that they're different. Mm-hmm. Like, oh wait, she wasn't a bitch this time. She just kept going. Okay, I saw that. Mm-hmm. Cool. I can do the same thing. You know what I mean? Vice versa. Mm-hmm.
I love it.
All right. Anything else, babe?
Nope. This was lovely.
Great job.
So great.
Great job. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Please, if you wouldn't mind, do us a solid. Go like this on iTunes, on Google Play, on all of the streaming outlets. Leave us a review. Please go to iTunes and leave us a review, or Google Play and leave us a review. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the share button, hit the comment button. We really, really, really do appreciate it. We appreciate that you guys share it. And
I do go read all the comments.
It helps us too. It helps grow the podcast, and there's people that need to hear this that you might have in your circle. So by you sharing it, it helps change the world. Yeah, and we love seeing the shares on Instagram. Yeah. Truly. Yes. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, guys. See you later. Bye. Okay, bye.